Hello, friends.
Oh my god.
It's time for the show.
Is this happening?
With your favorite co-hosts.
It is.
Eric and Nicole.
Could be worse.
We got all you need from pop culture to what's on TV.
Or
we
not.
cover every day like Long Island Strong, North Shore, South Shore, all week long.
Please stop.
So let's get started, friends, because us two got a lot to say.
You do?
We're gonna make you laugh.
They're laughing.
Put a smile on your face today.
Hello, No, Nicole, I don't do this. It's time for the show. Why are we... No.
You're doing great.
With your good friends, Eric. I'm not doing this, Nicole. This is ridiculous. I don't sing. Just start the show. Let's go. Start the show.
Fine.
Hello, Nicole. Hello.
Hello, Eric. Hello, how are you today?
I'm doing good. Did I miss the memo?
What's the memo? I know, am I not in a good spot? Here we go. How's that?
No, I just didn't know if we were supposed to dress like Easter eggs or something.
It's a velvet.
It's something. And you know what else is something?
I
What?
love velvet. I'm in a velvet kick this week. I have, multiple versions of the same shirt because of Amazon. So I wore the pink, I wore the blue, and now I'm up to like the tannish yellow. I also have a green one. So if you could be expecting
buy
that.
that?
Also.
Did you buy that for All Stars?
Yeah. No. Yep. I think I
Yeah.
brought them.
Because that would probably be nice, like golden-y, like All-Star thingy.
Yeah, I didn't get to wear it, so I'm living my glory days now. Go ahead.
I want to let everybody know you can be an all-star by making sure that you follow, like, and subscribe wherever you guys are watching our shows. Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all of those places that we are creating content for you guys. You liking, commenting, hitting bells, thumbsing up and subscribing on YouTube, all that goodness is great free ways to help support our shows. Of course, you can also share them. Share it now and let everybody know that we're live. Or when you get to the end of this show, share it then with someone that you think might like it. Put it in a Facebook group. Tell a friend or a family member. You guys are our best marketers. So if you want this shows to continue, you know what to do. Of course, maybe you're like, where do I find all of these links? I can't possibly remember. Head over to our website, hellofriendspod.com. Click on that Find Us Live page. You'll find Nicole's socials, mine, the socials for the show, our schedule, and more.
Scheduling. And of course, as always, if you're listening to the audio podcast version, please be sure to leave it a 5-star rating, a positive review, and be sure to share it with all your podcast listening pals.
Yes, I am so excited for this show, Nicole.
I know. I'm really excited.
Well, then you know what you got to do.
I know. I'm ready. Okay, friends. Today we have the pleasure of interviewing somebody who has already interviewed me a couple times. I'm really excited to hear more of his backstory and his stories that he can share with all of you. He is a comedian. He is the host of the Revisionary Podcast. It is the one, the only Juan Carlos.
Juan Carlos, hello.
Hey!
Hello, how are
Welcome.
you?
I'm doing so well. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited.
I know. I'm always hyper for shows. I don't think I had sugar today, but I'm still hyper.
Yes, she is very much hyped today. We love it. We love doing the Hello Friends shows and getting to meet new people. And I love when it's a comedian.
Yeah, it's funny because I've had the opportunity to speak with Nicole a few times, and I kind of feed off her energy. Last time I spoke to her, we were like, "There's so much energy." I was like, "I have a headache." It was like a sugar rush.
Yeah, let me.
My sugar rush just it pours over to people.
Yeah, let me though explain to you. It's the thing where like it is like that the first few times.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you're exposed to it for prolonged periods of time,
I see.
I like to call it like a life sucker. Like it sucks the life out of you. Like you thought you had life and then it's been sucked out because, like things start to hurt. And then there's, Nicole and she'll be like, and like she literally like runs circles around, like you're just trying to walk forward and she's like running circles around you. And you're just like, I'm exhausted.
That's actually how she stays in shape. She's just running around you, you know?
Yes, I'm
That's how I
convinced
keep
she's running right now.
my youthful exuberance. I talk people's ear up until I absorb their youth, and that's why I'm always hyper. I just take people's like childhood.
I would not be surprised. You heard it here first. Nicole Anthony eats children.
That's horrible. No, you always bring up references that remind me of the movie Pan's Labyrinth with like the thing that's like this and like eats babies. That scares me.
When do
So
I always bring up baby eating
oh,
references?
I don't know. I feel like there's been several times where like you've said something and I reference the thing from Pan's Labyrinth. I'm sure somebody knows what I'm talking about. It's like a horror movie character. He has eyeballs on his hands and he goes like this. No. Okay.
Nope.
Never mind.
Yeah, is that one of your little demon friends that you eat babies with?
Juan Carlos, how are you?
I'm great. You know, let's do this. You know,
We're doing
speaking
it.
of mom
You're in
and
it right now. It's being done.
All right.
We thought that we would have some fun and jump into like a whole bunch of different topics. People have really liked now when we've been talking about a whole mix of things with the guests that we have on. So I think we're going to continue that tradition.
Love
And
it.
where do you want to start, Nicole?
We want to start with, of course, your background. Obviously, you're a comedian. I want you to give a little bit of your backstory, how you got into comedy, what's maybe like your favorite, stand-up comedy gig that you've done, just to give the people an idea.
Sure. So I've been doing comedy for a few years. I got started in New York. I think everyone does. I feel like, I feel like for a lot of comedians, like New York's like the destination, places where you ultimately want to end up. I did it backwards. I started in New York. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna move out. It's like just did it the complete opposite way. I remember like it was I was like 15 the very first time I was like, oh, I'm gonna do stand-up. And I had gone to like some like high school talent show. And like, people are doing a variety of performances. And this one guy comes up, this like, he must have been like 16, 17-year-old kid, and does so bad at comedy that I was like, oh, anyone could do this. Like literally anyone could get up and tell jokes. This is not difficult. And I'm the one joke that stands out in front of my head is like, I didn't know this at the time, right? But he didn't know how to write a punchline. So he like tried to make this joke about like extreme Bibleism. But instead of having the punchline, he just kept saying it and trying to make it funny, like extreme Bibleism, extreme Bibleism. Like, what is going on?
And it just became uncomfortable for everybody there.
Oh, 100%. It was bad.
And now did you get up on stage after him?
No. Hold on. You were going to ask something, Eric?
I was going, thank you. I was going, notice how Nicole doesn't ever care. I was going to ask, how do you deal with hecklers as a comedian?
So, it's funny, people ask me that all the time. And I can honestly tell you, like, most people don't heckle me, right? Most. I approach it in a few different ways. The first is I try to ignore them, right?
Right.
Because at the end of the day, someone who's heckling you, they just want attention. And if you don't give it, it's like they're like children, you know what I mean? You deprive them of the attention, they generally go away. Sometimes though, like if they give me like something that I can work with, I'll turn it around on them. You know what I mean? And like just like tag it up with a joke or something I thought off the top of my head and like deal with it that way. My favorite though is when they're persistent and like you just kind of gotta let them dig their own grave. Just enough for the audience to hate them, as soon as everyone else, because then it's like no bars, right? I have a microphone, I'm louder than them, they can't outproject me. And now I don't even have to be funny, I can just be mean, and the audience is gonna eat it up. So they've done the work for me.
Right.
True.
I do love that. I feel like I would just be like, security. I feel like I have power. I have the power, security.
So I don't know where you are, but at the point in my career, if I were to go security, they'd actually walk me out. They're like, sir, you're done.
Yes, well,
thank you very much.
America. Although maybe not turning point today.
Yes.
Hopefully in a right direction.
I'm holding my breath until they actually give the charges, because I'm thinking they're gonna hide him in a country club for 3-4 years. They wait till the story dies down, and then they're secretly gonna let him out, and that's gonna be the end of that.
Oh.
Wow. We will hope not. I want to believe we're moving even a milli-inch in the right direction, hopefully.
I agree.
Yeah.
I was emotional. I stopped to watch that while I was also watching you, Eric. You're playing Dead by Daylight, and I was very invested. Like I was I was in it, like swimmer. I don't know, Juan Carlos, if you play any type of games, but Dead by Daylight, it's a horror game, and there's killers, and the killers are like Michael Myers and Freddy Krueger, and they all like, I almost said Freddy Krueger because California, but Freddy Krueger. And you could be the killer, you could be the, what do you say, the victims, the saviors? I don't know.
Survivors.
The survivors, thank you. But if they're getting killed, are they really, right away? And I was watching that and freaked myself out to the point of wanting to play, but also wanting to turn it off. So I wanted to get your opinion on like horror things.
Do you like horror?
You want my opinion on horror
Yes.
things?
Yes.
I am the worst person to ask about horror things. I stay away from horror. Okay, so here's the thing. Growing up, I grew up with the concept of the chupacabra, which I don't know if you guys have ever heard this. Do you guys know what that is? Yeah, Eric knows. Okay.
It's behind Nicole right now, but go ahead.
What is it?
It's like, okay. The chupacabra is the best way to say it is like, it translates into like goat killer or whatever, like it sucks goats or whatever, but like my parents would always tell me like, you know, like this, like it was like this mythical creature was gonna come and get me in the middle of the night, and I'm imagining, think of like a demented demon / like vampire type thing, and I'm like just imagining. So like I just like grew up traumatized, and like the X-Files did an episode on it once, really freaked me out, like back in the 90s, and I don't do horror.
So it's like a legend. It's like a known thing.
I mean, I'm not convinced it's not true.
Oh my god. What is it now? Kuchabara?
Yeah, Kuchabara. Just tell her that's what it is. Just think of you're a comedian, so imagine Nicole in public settings. I saw the Kuchacabra. You're giving a gift to the people around. That's what I do sometimes with Nicole.
No.
That's one of those words that keeps you 30 miles away from school at all times. This is why. It's those words.
Yes, how have you never? I thought you watched oh my god, now I'm gonna forget. Nicole, I thought you watched like those CW shows.
That's what I'm thinking. Nancy Drew talked about. I mean, Nancy, okay, here I go. Nancy Drew dabbled into like the supernatural and the surreal. And one thing that freaks me out, I guess you would call them like daywalkers. They're things that pose as bodies, but they're really demon spirits that are waiting. And when you're not looking at them, they like, you know, and that's what I'm imagining, unless I'm wrong. Is that not what it is?
No, I just kind of think the best way to say it, like imagine like a vampire, right? But instead of a human body, right? Like instead of a human body, imagine like a demented demon kind of situation. Yeah, you look freaked out.
Yeah. Oh god, now I'm gonna have nightmares. We already established having nightmares. This is supposed to be a comedy show, not a Scare Nicole show. Now, okay, no, what, we got this, guys. Everybody's okay.
You're the one that brought up horror.
I did. You know what it is? I'm very odd with horror because it's like I want to watch it, but I don't. It's like a scary game. It's like I want to play it, but I also want to.
It's not scary.
Yes, it is.
It's a cartoon.
Nah, I was still freaking out. I'm with you, Nicole.
Thank you.
You haven't even seen it.
You're describing it. It's scary. I don't know.
It is not scary. Here's the thing. I do not like horror either. I don't watch horror movies. I don't understand the point of people who pay money to be scared on like a haunted hayride or one of those murder house things at Halloween. That makes no sense to me. But I do, as a storyteller, I like stories. I will read the plot of a scary movie because I will find it fascinating, but I don't want to watch scary movies unless it's like 80s ones where it's so obviously fake that those crack me up. Those are light comedy to me. So those ones I'll watch and I enjoy. But this is a game. It is not scary.
Just so we can set the bar here, I'm still traumatized from years of Are You Afraid of the Dark? Like, I haven't gotten past that level yet.
That was like kind of like Goosebumps, right?
Yeah, do you remember that on Nickelodeon when we were kids?
Yeah. Yeah, see, that messed some people up. But they also say that like comedy is so close like horror. Like it's kind of like how hate is so close to love. Like they're just like so opposite sides of the spectrum that it's so easy to shift, and that's why like when you think of like who is it like
Jordan Peele, Get Out.
Jordan, yeah, Peele. He does horror movies, but he's so funny. So it's like, I guess I would ask you that, like as a comedian, do you think they're very, very close? Like, do you think just like you're able to do a comedy sketch, do you think you're also able to tell a scary story?
You know, it's funny. I'd never given this like question thought until just this moment. No, you know what? I feel like I can't, me personally, and I just feel like I would find the comedy in it, and like if I try to make a horror movie, it'd be so cheesy that no one would be afraid. They would just be laughing at every turn. You know what I mean? Because if anything, I would do one like kind of like Scary Movie was like a parody of horror movies. I feel like that would be the lane that I would take if I attempted that.
Love it, love that.
I feel like it's really easy to tell a horror story because we lived through 2020.
Yeah.
Amen. And speaking of horror stories, and I can say this because I'm one of the biggest fans, the Mets, they sometimes don't always, do things the way we want them to, but we got to believe. As a Met fan, you're always taught to believe.
Yeah.
And I was asking you about your jersey prior to the show, and you said the player was...
Oh, Dwight Gooden.
Dwight Gooden.
Yeah, he played on the 86 team. He's one of those 80s Mets. You know? Yeah, he's you still see him at the ballpark. He's a special guy, but he was one of the most incredible pitchers that anyone. I didn't get to watch him live. Obviously, I'm too young. I don't want to date myself here, but like he was one of. Oh, that's terrible. He's not laughing. Should I be worried?
No, you're fine. Don't worry.
You're talking baseball and insulting me.
But no, what's funny about the Mets is, I guess I shouldn't say a couple, but years ago, like when I was in like middle school-ish, me and my sisters were so like, we've always been Mets fans, but so like into it. Like I knew the whole team. I knew all the positions they played. Like we almost got to like the World Series correct that year. Like I was like in it. Like I knew everything, all their numbers. We had like David Wright posters, Jose Reyes, and it's just funny how, I don't know, like we were so into it, and like as the years went on, I kind of lost it. So I feel like a hypocrite to tell people I'm a Met fan because I am, but I still have that 1 year like stapled in my head with like Tom Glavine and all them.
Well, let me tell you this because I've never actually said this publicly. At least I don't think I have. So this is going to be a Hello Friends exclusive.
Okay.
So the reason why I'm such a huge Mets fan is because when I was a kid, right, growing up, right, my cousin's father actually played for the New York Mets. So not only did he play, he played for the New York Mets. He was on the World Series team in 2000. And Mets fans will know who he is when I say what I'm about to say next. But he's known for one of the most infamous plays. It wasn't his fault, so everyone should get over it. But he gets blamed for costing us the World Series. And it's so like growing up as a kid, I remember being in middle school and he would give us like tickets to all the games. So my dad and I were sitting there like, I don't know, like whenever it wasn't a school night, even sometimes on school nights, we'd go down to the stadium, we never had a seat because we didn't technically have tickets, right? But like, we would stand there behind, and I used to watch so many Mets games, and then he would take me down, and like I remember sitting in the bullpen as a kid and like having conversations with guys and like running the bases because my cousin wasn't born at that time, or he was just like way too young, so I kind of got to like have all the perks of being like
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now you said it was your cousin's father.
Yeah.
So isn't that your uncle?
That is what I have always affectionately called him, but that's murky, so let's not get into that.
Okay, alrighty then. Okay, but a Mets player.
Yeah, no, 100%.
That's cool.
He hit the balls.
Yeah, no, it's cool.
Home run.
Not to harp on baseball or anything like that, but I remember like the reason why I even became a Mets fan to begin with was because my dad lied to me. He took me to like batting practice one time, and I watched these guys. I didn't know it was batting practice where everyone hits home runs. Like I didn't know that was a thing. So these guys are just hitting home runs one after the other. And I turned to my dad. I was like, "Hey, Dad, are these guys stronger than the Yankees?" And my dad goes, "Yeah, they are." And I was like, "Oh, okay. So I guess I'm a Mets fan now." And that's how this whole thing started.
I started as a Mets fan because like my mom would always say, like, you gotta believe, you gotta believe. It's
Yeah.
not about being the big dog, it's about being the underdog. You gotta believe. And I guess that makes a sense, like the way like I view even like reality television, like I'm
Yeah.
always with the underdogs. But I've only been to one game, and that was 1 year, like a friend's family member again was like part of, I don't know, part of something, and got us tickets, and it was the Subway Series, Mets versus Yankees. So I've been to one game in my life, and that was Mets versus Yankees, and I was getting like hyped. Like I'm not competitive. I don't think I am,
Right.
but I get like really like in it. Like I'm chanting, I'm screaming at people. I get really like passionate.
Yeah. No, me too.
Which I guess
I
you
w-
wouldn't think.
I was a season ticket holder in 2019, right before the year before the
Oh
pandemic.
wow.
Yeah, and that was phenomenal. Just being at every game and watching Pete Alonso go through his rookie record. But we don't need to keep talking baseball. I don't want
Don't
to.
they
That's
just
cool.
give away Mets tickets because no one wants to go to the games?
Shut up.
Excuse you. We're in first place right now. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Snap.
Look, I have nothing against baseball. It brings back a lot of childhood trauma for me. Like I can very much pinpoint my first panic attack in my entire life. Because like my dad was baseball coach for all my brothers, and then it's time now for Eric to play baseball. And I
Yeah.
was like, I'm gay and don't like this. But I had to, and then I will never forget like going up to bat for the first time and just thinking, I'm gonna lose this for my whole entire team, and just like crying and running and hiding. And what were my favorite parts of playing baseball? When we got to go to the other kids' house to eat, when we got to go to the other kids' houses to play Nintendo. When, like all of those things are my fondest memory of baseball. And every time I had to do anything, I always made sure I was sick. Like I was great I was second base. Or no, shortstop. It's called
Okay.
shortstop, right? You're in
Yeah.
between. That was my job, and I was good at it.
That's
It
so
was.
sweet.
I was. I still have my little baseball card. You saw it.
That's so sweet. Have you ever played, Juan Carlos? Like, have you ever played like baseball? I remember gym class was just a fail on my part.
So here's the thing, right? I'm listening to Eric describe his story, and I'm like, imagine growing up Dominican and not being good at baseball, because that is my life. Like everyone's like, oh, you must be great at baseball. I was like, well, in high school I could throw 80 miles per hour, but that didn't translate to being a good baseball player. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I always remember this was high school, like not even young, high school, like ninth grade, stepping up to bat, and I was that kid that went to hit the ball, and I spun full circle,
Uh-huh.
missed the ball. The gym teacher starts yelling at me, and I was just like in my head cursing her out, and I was so mad. But it's a very awkward experience when you're not good at a sport, at least, and that was a very recurrent experience in my life, except for ultimate frisbee. That was like my jam.
Oh yeah.
I don't know
Five-star
why.
athlete.
That's my new calling. But you would like I'm not coordinated, but I would get so annoyed because it was always be like me and like my nerdier friends on one team versus like all the jocks, and they'd be like, yeah, in your face. And I would get really fired up. So I was very good at blocking. Like I'd jump in front of people and block it and be like, in your face. I get tense.
Yeah, I have to say, this is awkward. I did not realize how many Yankees fans are in the chats, like Chickadee and all these people, most specifically New Jersey girl. She's like, we can be done now. I love the Yankees and am sick of this Mets talk.
I'll give you the Yankees because I'm still a New Yorker. But to Denise in the chat who just said go Phillies, you can escort yourself out. Mets don't like Phillies.
Nope. Also, Yankee fans are still mad because they suck this year while the Mets are number one. I'm just saying, but we can move on.
So
Don't
back
matter to
comedy.
me. Now, if you want to talk housewives, no, I'm totally kidding.
Which is your favorite?
None of them lately, but no, I think, yeah, I don't know. I would root for whoever anyone told me to root for. Like, I don't get, I guess just because I don't get sports, so I don't get the whole, I'm a Mets fan, not a Yankees fan, or I'm a Jets fan, not a Giants fan. Like, I don't Like, I don't get it. And I joke and I'm always like, oh, let's talk housewives. But then I think of it as like, I wouldn't be like, I love the Real Housewives of New Jersey, but I would never watch the Real Housewives of New York. It's like, I don't get it.
Yeah, but
Oh,
it's kind of when they fight, like the housewives among themselves, and you pick a side. Like I'm on
Okay,
Teresa's side, you know. Sorry,
gotcha.
Hon, go ahead.
Don't act like you know who Teresa is, but go ahead.
first off, I thought we were discussing Desperate Housewives, so I was way off base here. That's first off. Second of all, hold on. Do you have a favorite designer? Because that might be a more accurate representation.
Why? Because I'm gay, I have to like fashion?
No.
Because
Just
clearly,
because.
are you looking at what I'm wearing?
No, I was just gonna say that I know some people get like really uppity about which designers
True.
they wear. Like they'll be like, "Oh, I
No.
only wear one brand." So that's why I was like, "Oh,
Yes.
that's more accurate."
Yeah.
I
That is probably true for people that can afford designers. I wear what people send me. That is my favorite designer. I also love J.C. Penney from
Mhm.
when I had a family member that worked there. That was a large part of my clothing collection. And every once in a while, I will get something that I like from an outlet.
Okay.
my favorite is Amazon. Amazon. It's
Yeah,
very
Amazon.
elite. Only a few people are allowed. Actually, it's like a very
Right.
exclusive website. I'm actually a part of their Prime Club, but they're my favorite. But I think designer-wise, I always say Betsy Johnson. I don't have a lot of her stuff, obviously, because but I like 'cause she's very quirky and colorful and like random stuff like glued to a purse, and it's like, okay, Betsy,
See what I mean?
see,
She had her own store for a while, closed down.
that's awesome. Oh, I think me and her would get along very well. I think she's my spirit animal. I'm gonna grow up to be Betsy Johnson.
Really? I've
Yes.
never heard you mention her once.
Well, there's a lot you don't know about me, which Juan Carlos, something people may not know about you, like I was saying, is you are the host of the Revisionary Podcast,
Yes.
which
Yep.
I love because of the whole premise of it, but I'll let you explain it and
Sure.
share with people like what it is, like the topic and how you do it.
So the way it works is I bring on guests, right? Usually comedians, just because that's just kind of like my inner circle and who I have the pleasure of working with. But I have had Nicole on twice now. She's been wonderful both times.
Thank you.
Absolutely killed it. And they tell a nonfiction story about their lives in which they wish things had gone a little bit differently. Afterwards, I give them an opportunity to tell the same exact story, except this time they can change any like facts or details about the story that they would like, and then we discuss the impact of the changes that they have made.
I love
Um,
that.
People often ask me how I came up with this concept, and it's really the saddest story. But I will tell you, it's like I remember like I had all these stories. Like I feel like as people we're all about like growth, right? Hopefully you're a better person now than you were 10 years ago. And I unfortunately, I played rugby in college. I was in a fraternity. I was that guy. You know what I mean? So yeah, I see your lip curl. You get it.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, it's okay. I've changed so much. I'm a lot better now. But so there's a lot of stories of things that I did, which I kind of look back and I was like, I wish I hadn't done that. But I also realized that like it's selfish of you to apologize for something you did 10 years ago to somebody, because then if it was traumatic for them, then like now that you're making them rethink it and relive that experience 10 years later, like right. So like you're in this weird like middle ground of like, well, I want to like atone for what I've done, but I don't really have an outlet. So that was my original intent in creating the podcast.
Wow.
Yeah, but I ended up getting all these really fun, quirky stories about like different aspects of life, and like it became really relatable. And like people come on and they just like open up and share their feelings, and we have these really cathartic conversations, and it's wonderful.
I love
Absolutely. I
that.
think both times I've joined you, it's funny because I like to go into it. I don't like to go into it with like, this is the story I want to talk about. I like to see like what flows. And it's very interesting when you then say, okay, how would you rethink it? Because I'm not somebody who says like, oh, I have regrets.
Right.
But when you say that, it's like, well, how would I? So then it's almost like I'm working through, like you said, like very like therapeutic working
Right.
through it. And then afterwards you're like, oh, damn, I didn't realize that was in my mind kind of going around. It felt good to like get it out. So that's what's most interesting I find about your podcast. And I think what you do not only helps the guest, but also helps the listeners like, oh, I can do that as well with any situation in my life. So I love it.
Now,
Oh, go ahead.
now, Juan Carlos, let me ask you this question. How does
Sure.
it make you? Because I am sure that you spend countless, hours. I don't think anybody knows how much goes into doing a show, doing a
Yes.
podcast, preparing for it, like all of that. Now, how does it make you feel when you hear Nicole say, "Yeah, I didn't prepare for the show at all. I just showed up and whatever happens, happens. I don't care about your show." How does that make you feel?
So I work with comedians,
Yes.
right? And I'm not trying to dish on comedians. Book me if y'all still are listening out there. This is no shade. Shout out to the comedy clubs. Thanks for reopening. But there's a bar that's been set, and whether Nicole meant to or not, she vastly exceeded it. So
Oh, dear.
Because here's the thing that I've learned about Nicole is that she's very funny. You just can't tell her she's funny because then the second you tell her that something is funny,
Yeah.
then she tries to recreate the funny thing, but it
Ah.
turns to just awkward. So you
Yes.
just have to like tell her she's not funny. So get her a little angry because that's when she's the most funny. You just like get her a little bit angry and then she just is funny.
So you're negging her.
Yes.
Necking? Isn't that
Yeah,
like
we're
making out?
necking. We're necking
I don't
you.
want to neck. That's not appropriate.
Nope.
No, negging.
Negging?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Oh, okay. So I'd be happy to explain this because remember how I told you that I'm a better person now than I was 10 years ago?
Okay.
This is one of those examples. There's this whole community. They're called PUAs. It's called the Pickup Artist Community. They're a bunch of like terrible
Okay.
people who try to like manipulate women into like falling for them, right?
Okay.
And one of the concepts explained in like the community and the book and all that stuff is called negging, which is when you like kind of like make backhanded compliments at a woman to kind of lower her self-esteem just enough to like make her want to seek validation from you. It's terrible.
Wow. Huh.
Yeah.
That's
Of
very...
which we have discussed. This will officially be the third time on this show, and I can't wait till we have to explain negging again.
No, but it's kind of, oh God, here we go. The baby of egging, like you're egging someone on, but edging, like you're edging the person. So it's kind of
Or
like, right?
negating.
Or negating. Uh-oh.
What does edging mean?
Yeah, what does edging mean?
What is edging? Like pushing someone to the edge?
Yep.
It seems like you know. What does it mean?
You got it right. Yeah.
No, I don't think the chat's saying no, it doesn't. What does it mean? Why won't you tell us?
It's like, oh God. It is when you shit. You push somebody to the edge, and not like in like a personality way, like in a type of way, but then you don't give them what you want, so you just like back up, and they're like, oh, I'm frustrated, and you're like, haha, see you later.
And that's how you make Nicole funny.
That's so
She's
inappropriate.
blushing.
Right, man. Oh my God.
And that's how you and that's how you do that. Yeah, thank you
I'm
for
just gonna stay
explaining
quiet.
edging. Yes.
I had a
Beautifully done.
question and now I lost it.
Well, that was a good one. I appreciate. Thank you for explaining edging. So I mean, do you to go back for 1 second? So like do you see only having comedians on? Because I think having comedians on would be amazing. I know comedians at least understand coming from a place of yes and can keep a show going.
Right.
Where when you interview a reality star or whatever, they're more used to being the center of attention and they'll just be like, yep, sounds good.
Watch me.
Oh, I got a funny story of when I was little. My dad got me ice cream.
Yep.
It was funny. We laughed. But it was funny.
No.
He told the story.
I've actually I try to branch it out and make sure it's not only comedians because like I don't want my audience to get tired or spoiled, depend on your perspective. So like I've actually had some like in addition to Nicole who does break the mold of me. I mean she's funny, but She tried to take my job last week. I'm still not over it. You know what I mean? She told me she could headline over me. But we won't talk about that right now. But so I've had professional athletes on, which was pretty cool. Like I had a guy who played for in the NFL, and listening to him tell stories was really amazing. You know, I have it on the calendar. I'm going to speak to actually a musician, someone who's toured and written books. So I'm really excited about that. Yeah, it's just a variety of people who've done a lot of different experiences and come from different backgrounds.
Who would be like a dream guest for you, or a dream specific story that you would like to hear a particular person like retell?
Okay, dream guest. So, Kat. But we've already established she lives rent free in my head.
We have established this.
I'm just kidding.
No. Eric, just to fill you in, Kat lives rent free in his head, like constantly.
Talking about Big Brother Kat?
Yes.
I almost said my cat, and that came out really. My Catherine Dunn. That's where I was going with that.
The joke is that when I had never watched Big Brother before I met Nicole, right? So I met Nicole, and my younger brother is a super fan. I had never seen it, and she's telling the story, on the podcast, and I'm just like, okay, I feel like I should go back and watch your season so I can put together what it is that you're talking about, get the full context behind it after our conversation. So I went back, and like the one thing that stuck out in my head, and to this day, like it's still here constantly, is her little catch line about how like everyone's conspiring against her. So it constantly replays in my head.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay, no, I get it. But who is your favorite guest? Like, if you could if you could have anyone, who would you want?
So if I could have anyone, it'd probably be someone like Neil Tyson deGrasse or Elon Musk, or an Olympian too, like a big time Olympian like Michael Phelps. The reason for it is because these people have just done things that like so few others have done, that it'd just be so interesting to you hear the journey and stuff like that, but I want to hear about like their insecurities, the times that they felt that they made mistakes, because I feel like as a society, we've put them all on this like pedestal of like, you're great, you've done this, like a Michael Jordan type person, LeBron James, you know what I mean? But I want to talk about like when they screwed up and how they dealt with that, because I feel like it must be a harder ego hit, when you're on that level.
Yeah.
That's very, very true. Like retell the story. Because maybe not necessarily, like I said, like a regret, but I could have done it. Whereas we're viewing it as, oh my God, you're perfect, don't change anything. That person's like, oh, that one game, like I fumbled the ball, and that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Sorry, Eric, go ahead.
No, I was gonna try one more time. So, Juan Carlos, you as someone who is, I'm gonna just rephrase the question, had Nicole on your show 2 times. And are now on our show. I was wondering, who would your dream guest be that you would love to have on your show?
Oh, well, I wanted it to be you, Eric, but Nicole told me you were too good for me, so she told me not to ask. No, I'm just kidding.
I would believe that. I'd believe that. She tries to hold me back. Here's the thing. We had Dylan on like 2 weeks ago now, which you guys should check that out. And on that show, he was like, oh my God, my friend is such a huge fan of, and I thought he was going to say Nicole, and he's like, you, Eric. Now, fun fact, we've never seen Dylan since that day. I don't know where he went. I have sent him a message. I can't find him. Coincidence?
I just want to add to this. Nicole did just mention that she wanted to visit the serial killer capital of the world for some Twilight thing. I'm just, just saying that.
Well, by the way, her whole I don't like scary, I don't like killer is so that when she kills me, she has a defense on the stand. She'll be like, everyone knows I don't like blood and could never kill anyone. Rainbows.
That's my voice. That voice is creepy. Why would I change my voice on the stand? But oh God, people are talking about edging again. What I will say, I'm not even looking. What I will ask is, one thing you and I had spoken about after the first time you interviewed me was you were going to go back and watch the season. I thought it was a very interesting way to go about it. Is like you met me, spoke to me, then went back to the beginning of my journey, which is really cool because it's flipped. And something I meant to ask you after you interviewed me this time, and I forgot, was I had said to you, after you watch the season, I want to know, am I much different than the Nicole that walked into that house, or much different from Nicole at finale night? Am I completely the same? Am I like, who the hell is that girl? Like, I wanted to get your assessment as somebody who met me first, then went back and watched.
You know, it's funny. It's interesting because I almost didn't recognize you when I went back to watch Big Brother. Because, like, now, right? You, like, when I met you, first off, you were a ball of energy and just confidence. And, like, you know, you were just, like, this bright, happy, smiley person, right? And like, you know, and every time I've sat down with you, you know, you come across that way. Like, you know, you're confident now. Whereas when I watched you on Big Brother, like, at least the first time, you seemed a little more awkward, for lack of a better term, you know what I mean? And I feel like you were a little more unsure of yourself, you know what I mean? And like the way you carry. But I will say, I do see the seeds of who you are now, because even as I'm watching you, you're like plotting, you're like, okay, so I saw this episode, this means this, so this means this. And like, you were like figuring stuff out, and like, I could see the confidence bring through towards the end of the season. But when you first walked in, you seemed a little guarded, you know?
That's really, really interesting. I love that. So the seeds of me now were there, but I wasn't as vocal. My biggest thing is I don't know who that girl is. Like, I look at that picture and I'm like, oh, she's a baby. Like, I look so young. Like, I don't know how they left me on the set. I'm surprised they weren't like, you're 12, back up.
Newsflash, you still look 12.
No.
You just, well, and that shirt's not helping, but you still look 12.
Juan Carlos, do you like velvet?
So when I think of velvet, I kind of think of like, you know, like a nice like seat cushioning at like my grandmother's house back in like the 60s. You know, before they were allowed to come to this country. That's kind of what I think of.
So I look like a grandma's couch?
That's better than color vomiting on you like yesterday.
Wow, I need to.
Remember when you used to wear pretty shirts, like the Greek one, like the off the shoulder, and they were like, remember those fun days?
Yeah, when the weather gets warm. I'm like cold right now. I'm not gonna expose myself in the cold.
Praying for warm.
Not expose myself. Like, I need to stop talking.
Oh no! Please continue.
Speaking of exposed, just kidding.
Speaking of exposed, I got this. So I love that. I loved when Nicole told me the premise of your podcast. I thought that was I think that that's a genius idea. I love when there, you know, is a theme to the shows that people are going to watch, because it is fascinating to get to learn that dynamic or something different about someone that, you know, you might not have known before.
Honestly, I've had to make it like, it's almost like a catchphrase now. Like 20 times an episode, I have to remind the audience that I am not a therapist. I am not a doctor in any way, shape, or form. Because we really have some, like, I've had people on the show, like, I'll ask them questions and they're like, oh, I think I've had a breakthrough. Like, someone literally described what a breakthrough on air was, because they had this like cathartic, like euphoric moment where they just realized like the whole problem because of a question I asked. So it's like this weird, like, I don't know how to explain it, but I'll tell you what, Eric, why don't you come on the show? I'm asking you live, and maybe we can experience your own firsthand.
Well, okay, let me ask you this. How do you deal with people when they cry? Or have people cried? But yes, of course I would do it. But I was curious, like, you just made me think of, do people cry when you put them through that?
So so one of the things about being a host, and let me be serious for a second here, because I don't want to make this a joke. One of the things that I appreciate about doing the podcast is that people are willing to open up to me, right? And they sometimes do make themselves very vulnerable. So I tend not to try to push someone when they're discussing something a little more serious. Like, I'm very mindful of that. I don't make jokes. You know, I kind of listen to them, because sometimes for some people, it's the first time that they've ever like been brave enough, or not even brave enough, but felt comfortable enough to discuss some of these things out loud. So no one has cried yet, but I also try to make sure that it's an open and safe environment, you know, and I'm very non-judgmental about anything. Like, you know, you can tell me almost anything and I will not judge you. And even if I have joked about judging, but it's usually when it's like a lighter, like, you know, story, like, oh my God, you know, I left my belly button in and walked through, you know, belly button ring in and walked through a magnet or something. Like those kind of stories, like, we'll joke about, you know what I mean? But when the more serious topics come up, I do tend to step back. So because I don't push, I don't think anyone has cried. And I do let people work through things on their own and in their own terms.
Absolutely, and I will attest to that, and that's very much something I do want to like clarify. If anybody's like, "Wait, what?" Yes, you're a comedian and you're funny as hell, and if the route of the conversation goes there, it goes there. But when I know for me, when I was telling my story, you're very understanding. You let the person talk it out. You ask questions that are very deep, but not like prying. And you're I just the whole premise of it like amazes me. And I like I said when I was like Eric just said when I was telling Eric about it, I'm like I just love the whole experience of it because there's that dichotomy of you are so funny, but it's like serious, so it equally balances.
Can we like give people a little like spoiler? What was your story about? Like, what is the topic of what your story was on the episode?
This I spoke about because obviously it's
I know
about
you did it twice.
re-envisioning. What?
You did it twice, right?
Yes, I thought you said I did something. I thought you said something about sister wives. I was like, what? No. I spoke about because I couldn't necessarily pinpoint a specific example or a specific story where I'm like on July 1st. So what I did was in general how I received things post BB21, people pleasing post BB22 versus how I am more so now. And maybe had I been Nicole now back then, how I would have acted with fans, with social media, with my castmates. So mine was more so a re-envisioning of my being a very much of a people pleaser.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you think if you would have maybe prepared, you could have had a story? Instead of just whipping that all out? Just unpacking garbage? Poor Juan Carlos over here.
No, because it's about the journey, right? And I'm a very firm believer that when you go into something with like a script, it comes across scripty and not genuine. And then you get caught up in like, if there's follow-up questions, you're like, well, did I prepare that? I did. Whereas if you're having like a natural conversation and you go with what you're feeling in that moment, you're more likely to be emotional and let it out and truthful. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
No,
I will say this too in Nicole's defense. There's like a whole form that like I have people fill out beforehand just for like organizational purpose. Just like I don't like if you listen to my podcast just for in case any of you guys ever do. I usually hear the story for the first time on air, so like all my reactions and everything are authentic. But I ask people to give me like a general idea just so I know that I'm not bringing on someone who's discussing murdering children or something like that, right?
Right.
Oh, yeah, of course,
Right.
And Nicole did fill that out. So she's like trying to make it seem like she was less prepared as you would, but she did fill it out. So there was some semblance of preparedness before coming on.
Oh,
Thank
no,
you.
I am sure that she was very prepared. Obviously, I am just kidding. Yeah, I love it. I love the premise. Of course, that sounds like something fun to do. I can say also, I don't know what story I would ever want to redo.
Right.
Or
Exactly.
like
So just go with it.
Well, I tell people all the time, sometimes it's not even like about redoing the story, but it's just like imagine something that happened to you, even something that you succeeded at, right? And think about like all the lessons that you wish you had known before getting to that point. Because think about how many stories we have. Like how many of us haven't sometimes like weren't lectured as a kid and we're like, I would never do that as an adult. And then sometimes you get one of your younger cousins or siblings or like just a younger person. You're like, well, let me tell you this. Try to get them to avoid your pitfalls.
Yep.
Right,
It's
right.
true.
Okay. I mean, I'll give people a preview then. I think I got it. It was 2 years ago. I was on my way. It was immediately following Big Brother 21, and I was on my way to an event in New York City where I would meet Nicole Anthony for the first time. That's the start of the story. How will I change it? I don't know.
Oh my
Instead, I
gosh, what a
drove right
traitor
off the
friendship.
bridge.
I'm just not. Speaking of events and places and things,
Yeah.
Post quarantine, I mean, we're kind of in that weird interim kind of transitional
Mhm.
time. What are you maybe doing or looking forward to doing? Where do you maybe want to do your next stand-up comedy bit? Like what's next?
So first off, I'm very glad you asked that because so things are opening up. I'm out in Washington. I'm out in the Seattle area. Native New Yorker. Started my career in New York. Been out here for 8 months now, for all of quarantine, which is great. You know what? Quarantine wasn't that bad when you have mountains to look at. You know what I mean? So that made it a lot better.
No, we don't.
Vampires. And vampires.
Yes, and vampires. There are a lot of serial killers too, so that's, good for my survival training. But anyway. So, but things have been opening up, and I'm actually just trying to like get into the club circuit out here and kind of get my name, because people here don't really know me as well. We have mutual friends and stuff like that, but people are getting to know me. I was telling Nicole about this off air. I actually put together a charity show a few weeks ago, which was pretty dope because I got to raise money for Canines for Disabled Kids, which I don't know if you ever heard of, but it's a charity that I'm now very passionate about. Because what they do is they try to get service dogs to help children with disabilities and kind of like pair them together to help I guess to like help them because they help each other out. And I did the show, and it actually just got extended for the rest of the summer. So every third Saturday out in Tacoma, Washington. If any of you guys are around, look me up. I'm raising money for a different charity, so come show support. And anywho, after this show, we raised a bunch of money, and then a guy in the Air Force comes up to me, and he was like crying, like in tears, because he was so touched because this particular charity meant so much to him. And that we were raising it because he was telling me his nephew had Down syndrome, was growing up with a Rottweiler, and how like that Rottweiler has increased his quality of life, or like made it so much better. So that's what I've been doing. I've been putting on shows, getting into club circuit. I just opened the weekend last week for like Gabriel Rutledge, which was like 2 weeks ago, which was pretty dope because he's been on Comedy Central. So I got to open for him on a weekend, and that's what I'm doing.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So when you say like you open up for someone,
Yeah.
do you like speak to them, be like, okay, what's your shtick gonna be about, and let me like play off that, or is it just you and you just go for it? Like, how does that work?
It really depends on who's headlining, right? Like, let me make something clear. It gets more intense as you go further up the ladder, right? Like, if I was opening up for Chris Rock or like Dave Chappelle, putting this out into the universe, I think those conversations might be had. But by the time you get to that level, it kind of doesn't matter because you've been doing comedy long enough, or at least you have enough material where you can alter. But some people don't let you go. But you do generally what you try to do is not to step on what the headliner is doing. So like if you know them and what they're doing, and you know what they joke about, you may want to stay away from those topics because when they go at it later, you don't want to cover them. But also keep in mind, I'm not a headliner yet. Like, I haven't reached that level yet. So anyone who's headlining, even if we do tell a similar joke, they're probably so much better at it than I am at this point, that they're just like crushing consistently.
Yeah. I love stand-up comedy. I love comedians. I listen to comedic podcasts, or podcasts where that generally interview comedians on all of their shows. So I definitely know that I have so much respect for people who do that. It's another, I consider what we do in art. I consider that in art, and I would say stand-up comedian is almost is a harder art because that's a lot of traveling. That is a lot of being away from your loved ones or your friends or family. That's a lot of being on the road, and that has to maybe be a little bit lonely, which is why I ask you, why do comedians hate themselves?
Yeah, no, we definitely hate ourselves. And I learned that because we all start off by hanging out in dingy basements with other people, and we're all weird. And that's just how we get started, Can I actually share 2 stories with you guys about comedy? So the first, because you asked me earlier, and I didn't get to touch upon it. You asked me what my favorite gig was. And it was this. I got to perform at Levity Live. I'll never forget this day. Because Levity Live is like one of the it's a theater essentially more than a comedy club, but it's big in New York for comedy. I got to open for Marcus Banks. It was 450 people sold out. I was on the website, which was weird for me, you know what I mean? Because it was one of those moments like, oh my God, like this is happening. Like someone picked me, they thought that I was funny, and I'm on this show. As I'm sitting, I walk in, right? And I'm like a little starstruck, not like by anyone else on the lineup, but just starstruck by the moment, you walk into this like theater and I'm like, yeah, hey, I'm Juan Carlos. They're like, oh yeah, you're the comedian. Yeah, we know who you are. I was like, do you know who I am? I'm like,
okay.
Like, this is weird, right? And I like this guy meets me, and he was like, yeah, let's come right this way, sir. We're gonna walk you back to the green room. I'm like, the green room? So I'm like sitting there taking pictures, like, trying to take this moment in, because like, this is like, for me, like, like coming up in New York, there's certain rooms that I had always dreamed of doing. Levity was one of them. But when you like set your goals and you set your dreams, like, yeah, you write them down and you hope to accomplish, but you don't always think like, yo, this could actually happen to me.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there, I walk in, we get down, I'm in the back of the green room, and like, the waiter comes in and like, he's like, sir, can I take your food order? I was like, I don't really have, he was like, no, it's on us. I'm like, what? They had asked me for a rider. They were like, oh, what would you like on your rider? I was like, and I always said to myself, like, when I get my first rider, I'm gonna do something weird, right? I'm gonna be like, oh, get all the green Skittles, or like, you know what I mean? Like, like only pink Starburst, like something weird, like, something eccentric to stand out. And I got to that moment and I folded.
What'd you say?
I was like, can I actually have just waters and cherry Cokes? That's what I would like. Like, literally, they had a whole kitchen. I could have had whatever I want. I was like, waters and cherry Cokes. That is all I would like, sir. So, but I get out there, right? And right before going on stage, I find out that Marcus, he was signed to a music label. He was like the only comedian on a music label. So one of his very famous like label mates, if you will, was at the show. I don't know if you guys have heard of him. He's a very famous rapper called Jadakiss.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to joke that Jadakiss has seen me perform live, but I have never seen Jadakiss perform live, and that's how that works now.
That's
but
awesome.
I get up on the stage and I'm nervous. So before I get up, right, they like let me pick a song, right? They're like, you can pick any song. I was like, I can come out to any song. They're like, yes, any song. So I picked Billy by 6ix9ine. If you've never heard this song, it is one of the most unnecessarily violent songs you've ever had to listen to. Like, there's really no point in the amount of violence that comes out of this song. It's like talking about murdering people and killing people. So this is what I come up to on stage, right? And I get up, and like, you're wondering why I did this, right? And it's because I get up and like the music stops, like there's like bullet shots, and I'm like pumping my arms and like, pretending to be dangerous. And then the music cuts, and I was like, hello guys, how are you? And that hit. I was nervous, right? So I needed that first laugh, right? And that kind of like broke the ice for me. And I mean, it didn't change throughout, right? The guy, but I should mention this, like when the host was bringing me up, he had brought up a few comedians before me, you know what I mean? But we were 3 comedians on the lineup, and he had brought up a few comedians to kind of work or whatever. And then he brings me up, he goes, finally, one of the guys you actually paid to go see. I was like, people paid to see me? So I'm just like,
That's incredible.
Yeah, I was flabbergasted. And doing that many people was weird, because your jokes don't kind of like hit in waves, right? Like one part of the room starts to laugh, and then all of a sudden you see the laughter kind of like reverberating throughout the room. So you kind of have to like wait it out longer than when you're at a small bar show. So that was pretty cool. I screwed up a few jokes, but like, because I was nervous, but like, I picked it up and got it was such a rush. Like the adrenaline that was pumping through my system at that moment was just unrivaled, and I've been chasing that high ever since. So if you were wondering,
I want to see you. I want to see you. Like, oh my god, it's really cool.
I'll tell you what, Nicole. Next time you're in Washington, I'll leave your tickets at Will Call. Just tell them that you know me. You know what I mean? It'll be fine.
Will Call?
Yeah.
Do you get the sucking the life part yet?
Is that a town? It's a town.
It's a town. Yep. Special town. You go to pick up tickets. It's a special town. You drive into the town, and then they give you tickets to shows at that town. And then you use those tickets in other places.
Oh my god.
Sometimes I want to choke myself with this wire.
No, by will call, I mean I will leave tickets out front in your name so you can just pick them up.
Oh.
I will pay for your tickets.
Will call for them.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll be driving around looking for a town. Where's Will Call?
No, so that was the first story I wanted to share. The second story I wanted to share was because you asked about being in the road, right? So I haven't I've performed out of town. I've performed in a few different cities, but one of the weirdest ones, I had to actually tell a joke about this, but I got in. Let me back up. My little brother is graduating from Cornell University next month, so
Woo!
Yeah. Wait. Is this the Big Brother fan?
No, my middle brother.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
No. Nicole has met my brother Jason, who's the super big brother.
Okay.
I interrupted him. He was doing like a Zoom. He was in school doing because he was during quarantine, so his teacher was on the Zoom call, and I made him mute his teacher. So I wasn't a good influence. So I shouldn't have shared that story. Please go to school. Paying attention to your teacher is very important. Go ahead.
Actually, Nicole, just so you know, he counts that as literally the happiest moment of his life because he looks up to you so much that he was in awe that he got that to share that moment with you. And his only regret was that he didn't get to take a picture with you to kind of like commemorate the moment. He like regrets it so much. He says that he was in such shock that it didn't even occur to him. And he was like, oh, I wish I had taken a picture with her. That's how much it meant to him.
Oh my God. Wait, did you a Skype call and take a photo?
I mean, yeah. You know how to get a hold of me. We could do that. That's easy.
That's so sweet. Oh, okay. Sorry, go ahead, but that's so sweet.
No, but so anywho, so my brother is at Cornell. He's graduating next month. And I just wanted an excuse to see my brother, right? So I'm asking around. So I put out feelers. I'm like, hey, can anyone get me a show in Ithaca, right? Like I want to perform in Ithaca, New York. And people are like, Ithaca, New York? Are you sure? I was like, yes, I want to perform in Ithaca, New York. So I started asking around. I reached out to my network. And finally, one of my comedian buddies, shout out to Madeline Smith. She's awesome. She has an album out. You guys should check it out. But she's like, hey, I got you. Let me connect you to this guy. So she connects me with this guy. And like, we work it out. It took us a few months, but we got it done, right? Like we negotiated everything. He let me bring up one of my buddies to like headline the show. He and I were like, we're going to road trip it up to Ithaca. Here's the thing. Number one, we're performing at something called Chili Fest, which in itself should have been a warning about what I was getting myself into. Chili Fest is apparently a huge deal in Ithaca. Like, really? Where like, yeah, it's like a huge deal. Like, it's a huge event. Like, everyone makes chili and like, you just go around, try chilies and you rate them and you vote on them. Real like, like when I like grew up as a kid, like that's the kind of stuff I'd watch in TVs and movies of like middle of nowhere towns. You know what I mean? That's what
Well, that's how you know it's the middle of nowhere town. There's an event built around chili.
Right. No shade if any of you guys are from small towns.
Little shade, little bit. Little bit. Broadway exists, so Broadway, chili.
Right. And here's the thing. So I'm driving there, right? And here's the thing about New York is you guys would know it because you guys are New Yorkers. The more north you go in New York, the more south you go, if you get what I'm saying. You know what I mean? For those of you guys who don't understand what I'm saying. I'm saying the trucks get a little bigger, like a little higher. The accents become a little more twangy. And there are a lot more people who listen to country music.
You get guns at the bank.
Here, actually, hold on. I'm gonna put a pin in this story for a second, just on a side note. I have nothing against country music. Like I lived in Florida for a few years, so I went through my country music scene. I got to see Easton Corbin live, which was pretty dope experience. But the way people who listen to country music sometimes say it is the most wholesome thing, and they like denigrate other like genres of music. But I've started listening to country music for the lyrics, and country music can be nasty sometimes.
It can extremely. So that's very true.
So I'm just saying, I'm just putting that out there. Look, I'm not a country music hater. I love country music. I used to go line dancing. As a matter of fact, I used to play for this place in Florida where it was like 5-cent beers and line dancing. That was my fun on a Wednesday night. So anywho, back to the main story.
Don't claim to be something you're not, country music.
Right. That's all I'm saying. Let's just be honest here. So I'm driving up there, right? And like I should have known better, right? Like I should have known because we're getting up there, it's getting wooded, and we finally arrive at the place. And there was a whole lineup of comedians that were supposed to perform, but for one reason or another, every single comedian dropped out, except for all of the Black comedians.
Oh my gosh!
So now I'm performing in a hotel room, right? All Black comedians in a crowd that I don't necessarily feel safe around. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Also, I should mention that as I was driving in, there was a huge Confederate flag. So that was my welcome.
Oh my God.
That was my welcome sign.
Right around. Oh my God.
Right, but you do anything for the love of comedy, right? So whatever. But I'm gonna ride. Things are, like, the host gets up there, whatever. We're like, we're gonna make them laugh no matter what. I get up there, and I'm doing my set, and if you've ever watched me do comedy, I talk a lot about my background. Like, I talk about being Latino. I talk about, like, some of the cultural, some of my Dominican cultures, and, like, try to educate people on that stuff, and kind of, like, really get the ball rolling on that. Halfway through, by the way, I don't know if you guys knew this, but Ithaca's up in the mountains, and apparently elevation is an issue. So I'm like 2 minutes into this, like, set, and I could no longer speak because my voice is so dry because I'm not used to, like, the different outfits. I had to, like, again, ready? They didn't ask me for a writer, but might as well have, because they were like, "Oh, sir, would you like anything?" When I walked in, I should have grabbed the water. I had to, like, beg the people to, like, ask me for a water mid-set. I'm, like, coughing up a lung, like, choking.
Water, please.
Because I can't breathe. Guy brings me up
Waters
the
and
water.
the green Skittles.
Yeah.
So, no. Yeah, right? Exactly, the green Skittles. But they bring me up the water, I finish the set. And this is where things get a little, I don't want to say janky, but the host, who is hilarious, you know what? I'm going to say his name. Kenneth McLaurin, really hilarious guy. And he goes, let's take this as a unique opportunity to educate people who might not have been around Black people before. Why don't you guys ask us any question you want, and we will ask you?
Oh my God. That's very uncomfortable.
I'm sitting in the back, and I looked at my buddy who's headlining, and I was like, this isn't going to go well.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So people start asking questions, and they're pretty tame for the most part, until this one guy, I'll never forget it. He must have been like 6'4", rail thin. He looked like he worked on a farm, you know what I mean? Real, like, sandy gold hair, blue eyes. And he goes, "Why do you guys call each other Monica?" We're like, "Monica?" And then we said it a few times, and then it hit us what he was really asking. And I was just like, oh my God.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah, these are what I deal with. But I mean, the worst part about it is like, after we do the show, we get home, there's nothing to do, right? We're done. It's like I think it's like 11:30 at night. We're like, well, what do you do? We're in a college town in the middle of nowhere. We decided to go partying. You know how uncomfortable it is to go partying when you're 25, 26, around, like, all these poor college kids? All of a sudden, I felt like the rich kids. I went into the bar, and I started buying out the bar. I'm like, shots for everyone, dollar shots. You know what I mean? I line up 30 shots, and I remember it, like, this like woman, she must have been a freshman, comes up to me, she goes, "Hey, I'm Stephanie." I'm like, "No, Stephanie, you go away. I'm not going to jail tonight." And, so some of these are just some of the quirky things that I've dealt with when I've ever had to perform outside of New York. So I'm just sharing that with you guys. Sorry.
Wow.
I definitely agree with you. I think the most shocking thing for me was when I had to go to Canada and I had to drive through upstate New York. And this is the first time I've really been in upstate New York. And thank God for Beth, who we had on the show last week, who re-put my faith back in upstate New York. But I'm not kidding you. I'm literally driving through this town. It's on my Twitter. There's a picture of it, which I was under the impression that guns are not legal in New York. But I'm literally driving through the town, and there's, like, the bank, and the sign literally says, "Sign up for your checking account and get your free gun." And I was just like, what? And Confederate flags everywhere. Like how on the 4th of July we have, like, the American flag on the streets. I was, like, driving through Confederate flags on the street, and I was like, this is frightening.
Yep.
I don't even know how to react to that. Like, it's just so different from, like, I guess, I don't know. Like, it's almost like places like that don't exist. You know what I mean? So when you think about it, I don't know. I don't even know how to comment on that. I have no comment. I really don't.
I will say this, because I don't want people to think that I'm hating on upstate New York. That was a specific experience, but Rochester, New York is one of my favorite cities in the state of New York. If you've never been in Rochester, I think is an underrated gem.
Yeah.
I've never been upstate, which is hard. I've been, like, obviously Long Island. I've been to New York City. I've never been, I've driven through it, but I've never been to, like, upstate New York.
Hold on. I got a bone to pick with you right now because I just realized you just did something.
What?
So I went to college out on Long Island, And here's the thing. Long Islanders will be like, oh, yeah, upstate New York, da, 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 da. But they refer to Westchester County as part of upstate New York. Now, I'm a real New Yorker because I grew up in, in the Bronx. Like, I'm from New York City. But I spent the latter half of my life growing up in Westchester. And that always bothered me because longitudinally, Long Island is parallel with the city of Yonkers. So I'm trying to figure out how I'm upstate when we're on the same level on the map. Explain that to me.
Because in my brain, as a Long Islander, there's only 3 parts to New York. There is Long Island, which is Suffolk and Nassau County. There is New York City, which is the boroughs, even though 2 of them exist on Long Island. And then there's upstate, which is all the rest.
Yeah, but the problem with that is I'm closer to New York City than you are. That's number one.
But it's like upstate.
It's
like,
just considered upstate. It's the way we do. It's just the way it is.
Fun fact, you guys have probably noticed this, but fun fact that I've noticed in recent months/years, I didn't realize that people from Long Island say on Long Island.
Yeah.
Because I've always said I've grown up on Long Island. It's so weird to talk to people out of state and they'd be like, oh, in Long Island. And I'm like, oh, what are you saying? It's on. So that's a very fun fact that I just realized people say in, which is weird.
I didn't learn that till college when I was out of college, someone corrected me. They're like, it's on Long Island. What made me cringe though, I once visited a friend up at Syracuse. She was going to Syracuse University and people were like, oh yeah, she's from Bronx. Are you from Bronx? I was like, whoa, it's the Bronx.
There's a the in there.
Yeah.
That's weird.
I never understood when people from like the Bronx or Queens or those places are always like, I can't drive out to Long Island. I'm like, I drive from the middle of Long Island into the city all the time. It takes like 25 minutes. It's just because they're like train people and they don't understand that like cars, which I get it. There's no point to having a car in the city. So yeah, I'm sure it is miserable when you have to take 16 trains to go 20 minutes, but it doesn't have to be that way.
No, it doesn't.
I mean, what does Long Island have that Queens doesn't?
Trees.
Yeah, I said it. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, guys. I'm
Water.
just kidding. I love Long Island.
I'm ready to like fight
Sand.
The breeze? Is that what you said?
Cheesecake Factory. Should I keep going?
It has me. It has Eric. It's more suburban. There's more air and space and not pollution, and the heat's not like so humid. I mean, it's humid, but it's not that bad. Yeah. And like it's a lovely place to be. Long Island all the way, baby. I'm such an advocate for Long Island. I'm like a spokeswoman.
I'm not a Long Islander, but I lived there for 3.5 years. There's a lot of love in my heart for Long Island. I'm not hating on it.
Thank you. Another confusion is people don't know the difference between Long Island City, which is in like the city, Queens, like urban, versus Long Island. And a lot of people think I'm saying I'm from like the city, like the real like urban. And I'm like, no, I'm out in the suburbs.
Chickadee, who is someone who grew up in the Bronx, says, I wonder where it came from because people don't say I'm from the Brooklyn.
Oh, I can explain that.
Well, here you go, Chickadee.
So here's the thing. Something you guys should learn about me. I know a lot of useless facts. So sometimes you'll need them. Right. Sometimes you'll ask me to actually know. So the reason why it's called the Bronx is because New York was originally a Dutch colony. And the Bronx used to be all swamplands, which belonged to one family, which was the Bronx family. So the name is derived from the last name. It is not an actual adjective. So that's why it's the Bronx, because it's shortened from the Bronx family, who owned all of that land.
That's cool.
Oh, interesting. Fair. And Chickadee is correcting me. She grew up in Brooklyn, and I got it wrong. Okay, so as someone who's spent time in Long Island, and spent time in New York City and performed in New York City. Yeah. And Nicole and I, as being Long Islanders and New Yorkers, I think something that we can at least all agree on is that New Jersey is a garbage state, right?
Oh, 100%.
Thank you.
100%.
Okay. Just making sure.
Yeah, here's the thing. I can't respect any place that willingly lets another state dump their garbage on them. Like, have some self-respect, New Jersey.
Oh my God.
This is all I say to people. This is all I say. It is literally the garbage pail of the United States. They willingly are like, give us all your garbage.
You know, I had a friend once tell me that Jersey girls aren't trash because trash gets picked up. And
That's
is
true.
how I now view Jersey. I'm so sorry. Is this too mean?
No, this is true. No, this is true.
No,
I agree
as
with
a
you.
woman, I need to advocate and say, advocate? What the hell was that? Advocate and say, no.
I should specify that I did not mean that to be anti-feminist. It was more that
I
Anti-New
date
Jersey.
women so that, you know, I fit it to my narrative. You know what I mean?
No, it's okay. We're big anti-New Jersey people here. Also, we hate the French.
Really? Why?
Well,
I
only
like
because there's one French devil that trolls our chat room, and she's really just ruined it for all. Like, we usually have a lot of different people from all over the world watch our shows, come into chat,
Right.
talk to us. Unfortunately, the only representation from France has been this horrible little drunk troll lady who's been around here all the time, and she's really ruined it for France for me. Like, I used to want to go, not anymore.
Can I add one extra level for France for you? Maybe might strengthen the hate.
Okay.
I was in Paris once,
Yeah.
and let me tell you guys something. I took 2 years of French in high school and a semester in college. I am by no means fluent, but I can say simple words like ask for water, and you know, and I can read enough to figure a lot of things out, right?
Mhm.
I'm having a conversation with this gentleman in the subway, and like I guess my French wasn't up to par for his. You know, he was like, no, pas l'anglais, like just speak English to me. So I was like, all right, dude, let's speak English. He proceeds to speak in English that was way worse than my French, and I'm still offended that he didn't want to speak French when his English was worse than mine. Sorry. I'm holding on to this for years.
I
If we
hear.
can re-envision this story, you would ask him to please speak in French.
No. If we can re-envision the story, I would have taken a time machine to 4 years prior, became fluent in French, so I can properly insult him when he insults my French. That's what I want to do.
What you do is you just put the angry emphasis on it. So it doesn't even matter what you're saying. You just go, croissant. It doesn't matter what you're saying. You just need the French anger. So it's like, penne pour français. That's how you do it. That's how you insult somebody in French. That's what I learned.
I think the best way to wrap all of this up is with what, oddly enough, New Jersey Girl is saying in chat, who never learns. She says, New Jersey smells like hot trash and urinals for at least half of the year. That is why New York will always be superior. And I appreciate you for admitting it.
For the record, he completely flipped her statement. She was saying New York smells and that New Jersey's superior. I got you, New Jersey Girl. I won't let him flip it.
But who edits the show?
Shut up.
So, what? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, since we're gonna dump on Jersey, one last one. I mean, like,
yeah, please, thank you.
Even New Jersey sports teams are embarrassed of New Jersey. Like, they call themselves New York teams because they don't want to be associated with New Jersey. I'm just saying. You know what I mean? Look, there's a reason why they left Brooklyn. They left New Jersey to play in Brooklyn. They're like, yeah, you know, we could do better. You know, you were cute. This was a nice starter relationship, but we're gonna see other people. Just
that was a bird. Bird. Well, one of my last questions I want to know, because this is where I thought Eric was going with it. You've been on Long Island, New York City. You said you were in Florida. You've been to Paris. You're in Washington. Where is like your favorite location, as someone who hasn't really traveled that much? Like, I want to know, like, where have you been that you're like, wow,
is it Will Call Town?
Well, it depends on like what you're looking for, right? Like, I've been to a lot of really cool. Like, Austin is an awesome little city. Like, I loved eating food there. Like, you know, going to 6th Street and hanging out and just partying there was a lot of fun. It was a little overwhelming, but it was a lot of fun. I think Pittsburgh is a little underrated. I went to Pittsburgh expecting to hate it and ended up falling in love with the city. I thought it was just such a cute little city, and it's beautiful, and it's on the water. Same with Cincinnati. I was surprised by how much I like it. Sorry, I travel a lot.
No, I love it. I haven't been to any of these places.
Yeah.
Cincinnati, Ohio.
Yeah, I travel for comedy, but also for baseball. I'm like a huge baseball nut who's been trying to visit all 30 stadiums. So I've been like traveling the country doing that and trying to do comedy whenever I can.
Love that. Why are you smirking over there, Eric?
I was trying so hard to hold it in. I cracked myself up. I'm sorry.
I know you
Sometimes I
did.
crack myself up.
Can you repeat the
Sorry.
joke for those that missed it?
They heard it. I said, "Is your favorite place to visit Will Call Town?"
Oh.
I'm just not. You're so horrible.
But
It was a,
look,
it was an easy mistake. I think anybody would make that error, and I
nobody
thought of
would,
something
because
smart.
people would understand context clues when someone said, "If you come to my town to see me, I'll leave the tickets for you
Yeah,
at
if someone
will
says you, I'll
call."
leave the key for you under the rock. I'll leave the key for you under the mat. I'll leave the tickets at Will Call.
And
I was like,
you,
oh, Will Call's the place where you get the tickets. You know what I'm
and
saying? Like,
imagine
people
that
just
you
think you
didn't.
knock, and they open a little slot, and they're like, "This is Will Call. What's the code?" And I'm like, "I'm Carlos," and they give me the tickets. I don't know.
But that would have been correctish. You didn't say that. You said it was a town. So you didn't think under a mat is a town or under a rock is a town.
Some people say
So
where I
this has
come
been
from,
a
I lived under a
great
rock.
show.
I promise I'm smart.
I know you
We've learned so much today.
We did. This is a really fun show. I didn't realize we went over on time. And I'm like,
sorry.
I know we're a half hour
Oh, it's
over on
fine.
time, but here's what I want to say, because I think that this is very important. Number one, tell people where they can first find your podcast if they are. And obviously, the links will be in the description of this show, below this show. But if they're on the go and listening to this on their, on their podcast provider, where can people find your shows?
So I'm on Spotify, Apple, all the big ones, Castos, Google. Like, I'm literally everywhere. Just Google Revisionary Podcast. We sometimes come up next to Revisionist History. That's not us. I'm not Malcolm Gladwell. I'm sorry.
Okay.
And also, where can people follow you on social media, and which social media sites?
So I'm most active on Instagram, so Juan Carlos Comedy, but I am J Carlos Comedy on Twitter, and you can follow the podcast Revisionary Podcast on Instagram and Revisionary Pod on Twitter. And also you can follow my fan page on Facebook, www.facebook.com/Juan Carlos Comedy.
Love it. And you also just got, if I'm not mistaken, a TikTok.
Yeah, I just got a TikTok. I need to get my little brother to teach me how to use it. So I don't know how it works. I press buttons and I don't know. I'm old.
I got your back. The way that you use it is this. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You watch someone do a performance. Probably they're going to be like 18, 17, 16 years old. Then you're going to admit that you have no self-esteem or self-respect.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to try and copy that. And it's going to look real bad. It's not going to be the same at all. But you're going to convince yourself, I'm going to post this.
I
and
wanted
you know
to do
what
that
I'm going to do?
red light
Put a
challenge.
filter. And you do it.
I wanted to, but then, people started removing those red lights, and I was like, no one needs to see me in all the skin tight fat clothing that I used to hide all the fat,
No, I think you meant the one that's like my favorite. It's like dun dun with the red light, green light, go, and they dance. It's like dun 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 dun.
No, I have to be honest, I've really loved it. I have really loved doing the TikToks. They are very fun. I love doing them, and I think you will like it too. And people use it a lot for to do comedic things. So I think you will do great things with it.
Perfect.
Stitch things together where like you react or you do like a bit based on something. It would really do well.
Well, see.
You got this.
Yes, I can't wait. I cannot wait to see what you do. And like I said, we're going to put the links to all of your stuff below this show. I had such a fun time on this show. Obviously, we flew through it. I cannot wait until you come back again. And thank you for coming on. And I want to give you, Nicole, final thoughts.
Oh, final thoughts. Wow. I think the time itself just speaks for it. We went over and didn't even feel like it. I feel like we were just sitting here just having a ball, absolutely fun times. It's a testament to your comedic skill, but also your personality and your demeanor. We love to see it. You're always welcome. And I also look forward to hearing Eric's story on your show because I want to know what he has to say about meeting me.
Oh, that's not the story.
Oh.
But I will prepare one.
Ouch.
I don't want to steal real final thoughts from you. Is there Cars? Is there anything that you want to say to the people listening? Do you have shows coming up or performance that you are doing somewhere? Oh, go ahead.
So May 15th, if any of you guys are in Tacoma, Washington, I'll be at Narrows Brewing, so you can come watch me. But and I'll be there every third Saturday. But more importantly, what I do want to say is I want to say thank you to all of you. And if any of you guys are interested in any of the arts, specifically in comedy, don't let anyone tell you that you're not talented enough, because comedy is a skill, and the more you do it, the better you are. So if any part of you has ever wanted to do it, go pursue your dreams. It has taken me to great places, and I'm sure it'll do the same for you.
Aww, that was a wonderful message.
Except for you, Nicole. You're a girl. Girls in comedy don't work out. See, you have to beat her down, and then now she'll be fun. Like, now the next show, she's gonna come out and be like, I'm gonna be so funny.
I'm coming out. I want the world to know.
We will see you guys all on the next show. Bye for now, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, guys.